Welcome back to the Wondercat channel. My name is Cody. Today we're going to be going over one of the biggest decks, both in terms of casting cost and impact, that I've covered so far on the channel. Since set 2, I have been hellbent on trying to get Avarisha to work. A 10-costed voidlord that on summon would reanimate any undead or voidlord from the grave, though if it has a when summoned effect, it will not trigger. This is in place so that you cannot combo them into each other. That would be pretty fun and nutty. This sadly also impacts the card fairly negatively, since if it did allow when summoned effects, and assuming it just doesn't combo with itself, we could pitch things like Bacillus to the grave, reanimate it, put everything to one core, cast Curse Dragon for absolute stonks. This effect also stops other synergies like being able to Curse Dragon from the grave as well. It limits the odds of Avarisha ever wanting to play Angel Falso, though that may just be a completely different reanimator list with that card, especially because Angel Falso benefits off playing the Magic Reanimate, which this deck does not play. We aren't able to abuse Morsdemon's effect to card filter either. Probably not our first target, but still something to consider. This ability also cancels a Cedia's trigger, which is super strong. It also cancels both Rage Demon, Emperor Ira, and Superbia's. So set 2's other Voidlords were most likely his best targets, and yet they lose half their value by reanimating them. Thankfully, set 3 gave us the reason this deck is even remotely playable, the scariest bourbon BSS Feng. And then the deck was born. So let's talk about the actual list. 3 copies of Avarisha. As much as I love seeing the Gundam collab in my hand, it's a very bricky card, so we don't need it until all our ducks are in a line. If we draw the card early, we have ways to deal with it. Avarisha is the deck's boss monster, and it is a combo card. With 6 purple reduction, he can be quite easy to play a late game, which is what we're hoping for. Ideally, we don't want to be drawing into it too early. 3 copies makes a good middle ground for this list. Interesting inclusions that Avarisha can reanimate that we won't be playing is Great Grave Whale. He was fun in testing, but far too slow to hard cast, and it's realistically not what we want to reanimate. Majuk is also an amazing undead target, but she cares a lot about the curse mechanic. We aren't really building the deck around curse, so she isn't included in this list. And we touched on Curse Dragon before. It might be a decent one-off, but the list is a little too full to play any copies of him. We don't get his when summon trigger, so we're going to be having to hard cast him if we want to use that. Yeah, not great. But we're going to talk about the big burb of the room. And it's not Tokiwa, the Voidlord Destroyer. It is the Voidlord Punisher, Feng. So Feng was an absolute menace when it came out, becoming the first 2-symbol spirit we had access to. Another 10-drop Voidlord with 6 green reduction, with no when summon trigger, which is perfect. We don't miss out on any value. Gale 3 pressures the opponent's board, especially if you've gone pretty wide yourself. Removing essentially 4 blockers just by swinging with Feng can be pretty nutty. Its level 2 attack step trigger combos nicely with other green cards in the flash step and triggers with other Voidlords, which means Feng naturally combos well with Avarisha. Bouncing an exhausted spirit to hand when reducing the opponent's life to refresh Feng so it can swing again is just... it's value. But the card has more! It has more text! With 6 cores on it at level 3, it basically turns into that 2-symbol spirit without being one, reducing your opponent's life 2 points at a time. This was particularly problematic because it started to worsen the effectiveness of being able to hold up Ice Shield at 2 life. This of course has become much more natural, and we've learned to play around this double symbol spirit with the release of set 4 onwards. Feng sits comfortably as a full playset because we're going to be able to get it into the grave, and we want to be able to reanimate it whenever we cast Avarisha, so it's important we see Feng more often. We're going to be running a playset of Amethystus. This little guy will just help chump block early if necessary. Can give us some extra card draw on occasion. It's cheap purple reduction. Not much to say about him. Next is going to be our playset of Morsdemon. This card definitely made me think the deck was playable even until set 4's release. Set 3 gave us the bird, set 4 gave us Morsdemon. I'm like, oh my god, this deck is just, it's coming together. The card allows you to pitch any Voidlord, familiar, or undead card to your trash to draw another card. It's perfect. The card will always dump an early Avarisha, or more than likely, our Feng. There's 18 targets in the deck on your first Morsdemon summon, so it should more or less always be live. Other than that, the card has Curse on 3 cores, which can allow you to play a little more aggressively with it. if this card didn't exist, the deck's consistency would take a bit of a nosedive. But that being said, Set 5 has given us a new potential shell that can also help morsdemon do his thing. Next up is the coolest card from Set 5 in my opinion, my boy Rasal. We covered him in our red-purple Skybinders list. This card will mill 3 on summon and can return any Skybinder from your trash to your hand. We're going to be running 3 copies of him and has actually replaced Ouroboros in the deck. Ouroboros' mill 3 to draw 1 was basically the same effect, but Rasal can be played more aggressively with his ability comboing well with morsdemon because one of our other Skybinders is also a familiar. So we're going to be playing the playset of Oni Soldier, a familiar Skybinder, meaning he can be pitched off morsdemon to draw a card and return to hand by Rasal. This card also has Curse, and being a Skybinder adds more pressure to the opponent, if not deck building with Skybinders in mind. All in all, it was one of the cards I was actually most hyped for when seeing spoilers for Set 5, because of this exact interaction. It's crazy to think that this was the card that had me as excited. We're also going to be playing a playset of Garsha Aether, and it surprisingly fits the exact same niche as Oni Soldier. It's both being a pitch target for Mors and a recycle target for Rasal. Its ability to draw us extra cards whenever a Skybinder is summoned by paying 1 core will definitely come in handy, as the deck wants to get to that late game scenario where it has extra cores to drop out Avarisha. A 4-drop with 2 reduction is par for the course for most purple spirits. It has pretty subpar stats. It's most likely just going to be gumming up the board and having you passively draw extra cards off it if need be. Because it is a Skybinder, it also gains Astral at level 2 for 4 cores. It's not bad. Oni Soldier needs 6, so that's likely never going to happen. And yeah, at the end of the Spirits list, we're going to be playing a playset of Lindell, good old Linky boy. A 3-drop green Skybinder that on summon ramps a core to the trash. This card is more or less another upgrade from the original slot, playing Ostrora, our favorite little bin chicken. Its BP thresholds are a little higher, and it has Astral during the opponent's turn, so we can use Link defensively into other Skybinder decks, where we couldn't for the bin chicken. If you don't own Link, bin chicken Ostrora will still do fine. This early ramp will help us get to Avarisha faster and leads us into casting our other green support cards in the list. Piggybacking off of Link, we're going to be traveling from Hyrule to the Highlands running a full playset. This card essentially guarantees our late game win con and allows the deck to function as it does. Having 1 copy on board when you play Avarisha to reanimate a free Feng is solid. Having more than 1 can be backbreaking for the opponent in terms of tempo. Take this into consideration with Garsha Aether on board. A single Avarisha into a Feng with 2 Highlands on board nets us an additional 6 free cores, allowing us to summon 2 to 3 more Skybinders during a turn and drawing us additional cards. Hurricane Highlands is also a solid turn 2 play after Link. The deck doesn't necessarily fold if it doesn't get to use this interaction, but it certainly increases our odds dramatically. Since the majority of the deck is still purple, you'd probably look to play this the turn before summoning Avarisha to limit the amount of time your opponent has to interact with it. Losing your Highlands blows. It sucks. The deck also runs 4 copies of Amethyst Sanctuary, as we can abuse its level 2 attack step trigger to mill cards from the top of the deck into the grave when any spirit is destroyed. This more or less fixes some potential dead draws and allows us easier access to discarding our Fangs. The card is also just easy and cheap purple reduction. That's it for our Nexuses. On to the magic. So because the deck is very late game focused, we need to run the full playset of Ice Shield. It's necessary, not up for debate. The deck is just consistently going to have you saying, I just needed 1 more turn. So having Ice Shield is a requirement. We're going to be playing 2 copies of Core Theft, because whilst we aren't super core control heavy, we do have that small Skybinder package that can benefit off Rasal to nip cores off spirits, and Core Theft will allow us to pitch Feng to grave if we don't draw a morsdemon or we aren't getting too many triggers off of our Amethyst Sanctuary. We're going to be playing 2 copies of Starblessed Draw. The deck doesn't really have proper consistent draw. A lot of it's very conditional, like on the morsdemon one summon, summoning a Skybinder, as compared to other purple decks. So I think running a couple of these is going to be a necessary evil. 2 copies of Thorn Prison. 3 to 4 copies is far too slow, even for this deck. And because we realistically aren't sticking too many green permanents on board, we're not able to abuse the reduction. It's definitely here for the later turns. This card does put in massive effort, however, with Feng, and it is still a staple, so we're going to have to play a couple. If you find yourself wanting to run more copies, take out the Star Blasts if you see fit, make the deck a little more control-y. Our last card in the deck is going to be 2 copies of Plant Trap. You could think of it as 2 potential free copies of Thorn Prison. Its ability to refresh Feng or Link, or exhausting a large boss monster spirit is a nice little bonus. And here's some stats for your liking. We have 17 sources of card draw in the deck, which is pretty surprising, actually. We have 12 skybinders for Rasal shenanigans, 17 sources of core removal, including Rasal's effect, so just any skybinder swinging with Rasal on board, it will be one of those sources. 19 undead, voidlord, or familiar targets for a morsdemon to pitch. Like I said earlier, 18 off of the first morsdemon. Pretty solid number there. And 13 sources to pitch or get our Feng into grave, and 8 sources of ramp. So some decent numbers, all things considered. The deck is going to be setting you back around $150. The money cards being our playset of Link, Ice Shield, and Rasal. If you wanted to source the very, very gorgeous copies of Avarisha, the Gundam collab, you're going to be looking at around $270. The deck can get much more expensive if you want to go the max rarity route. The Rasal Saga Rare, with those, the Link SPRs, and the promo Ice Shields, you're probably looking at over 500. Wouldn't recommend it. If you've picked them all up, the deck will look nice. If you want to play the deck at a significantly cheaper budget, however, replacing Link with our Bin Chicken is going to save you literally $100. I don't believe the Skybinder, I mean, technically it's hurting your consistency a little bit with Rasal, but that being considered, and the fact that they basically do the same thing on Summon, which is what we're using it for, and the fact that the Bin Chicken is literally just a bulk uncommon, I think. It's an uncommon. And, you know, Lindell Link is still a, you know, rare set 5 X-Rare. That's where the price difference is. I don't think it's worth $100. If you've got Link, it's going to do better for the deck, but the deck should still work fine with Bin Chicken. Yeah, plus of course, even then, we do have the Gundam collab Aurora full art version as well, which is pretty cool. Not Gundam, the Evangelion. My bad. But yeah, so that is the deck. We're gonna put up the list for you on screen now. It's definitely been a bit of a pet project, this particular deck, for, you know, since set 2. I do think it will, you know, it's only going to get better as the sets are released. Every time we see a new undead spirit, we can look at it and go, hey, is Avarisha going to be able to play this? Does this make for better discard targets with morsdemon? I still think that playing Feng with Highlands is probably our best win con in the deck, however. We don't really have anything for purple that can help us ramp, so getting that green stuff sorted, or even just like, you know, the original investment, if you can go like, oh hey, playing a Avarisha early to summon a Feng because hey, that's what helps me wins a game, leaves me with very little cores in our spirits. The addition of Highlands summoning Feng essentially recycles those cores for us. Well, I mean, it ramps us for the next turn, 100%. But those 4 or 5 cores that we've spent, we just get back. So small initial investment, but the returns are really high, and it's the only way I think the deck can truly function as good as it does. But yeah, hopefully you guys have fun playing it. I definitely do. The filtering ability in it is going to be super strong. I'm super keen to get some games in with it with all this new Skybinder stuff. We've already seen that Rasal can put in some really good work in the red-purple list. So hopefully he does well in this green-purple list. Hopefully, in set 6 as well, we see green-purple cards, and that's just going to bump up the consistency of this deck even more, which is going to be even cooler. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, and please share it around. We're really close to actually hitting this even just 50 subs, which is awesome. Yeah, and next video is definitely going to be our yellow archetype tier list. I have been putting it off a little bit. There's so much work. But I've finally covered this, which is one of the decks that I wanted to cover super early. So yeah, that's going to be next. Thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Ta-ta.